I competed at a no-gi jiu-jitsu tournament and I ankle locked everybody. Well, not always successfully, but we'll get to that. I was competing at 162 pounds and I started the week at about 167.8 pounds on a pretty loose diet. Because I had a little over 5 pounds to lose and I still wanted to eat this week, I decided to water load throughout the week and flush my system of all water by competition day. On Monday, I drank a gallon of water, and on Tuesday, I drank a gallon and a half of water. By Wednesday and Thursday, I upped it to 2 gallons of water, or for my fellow Canadians, 4 milk bags worth. And although my weight went up throughout the week, I drank no water at all on Friday, hit the sauna, and made it down to 161 pounds. So quick update, I made it to the comp and I made weight. Thank God. I was so thirsty and so hungry. I just ate like the fastest sandwich I ever have in my entire life. I was actually a little scared to eat because I only had an hour before my match, because it's about 9:30 right now and I was supposed to fight around 10:40, so just a little over an hour, and I was like, I don't want to feel gross for my fight. But then I find out my match has been pushed back to 12:30 start, so I have a ton of time now. I'm just going to eat like crazy in my car up till about maybe like 11 and then stop from then and go get this money. From there, I was called into the matted area and stepped up against my first opponent. And Mike said, and to that I say, dehydration. After a slap bump, we started fighting and clinched up pretty quickly. I felt I was getting a pretty exaggerated upward reaction when I snapped my opponent down, so I knew I could open him up to shoot a shot, and on my first attempt at a duck under, I was successful in taking him down and passing his guard. But really, it didn't matter too much because of the format of the tournament. This was a sub-only tournament with 6-minute rounds, and points only came into play for the 2-minute overtime. And sub-attempts mattered more than points in the overtime. My opponent was able to re-guard and was hanging his leg, but all I could see was my first juicy straight ankle lock staring me right in the eyes. I grabbed a hold of it thinking this could be the beginning of the end, and even had the opportunity to go belly down, which is my favorite way to finish it. But then, I let go and came on top. Okay, so I didn't finish this one, but it was my first match of the day, and I didn't want to risk fully taxing out my arms in the first minute of the first match. We went out of bounds, so they reset us on the feet, and we were back to hand fighting. My opponent took a slick shot at a single leg and had perfect head positioning. I was trying to defend by making distance, but he sucked me in and slammed me down like nothing, which Edgar thought was pretty hilarious. What up with that, Josh? Fuck you, Edgar. He landed right in side control, but made the error of forgetting jiu-jitsu rule number 1, position over submission. He didn't pin my shoulders here before attacking an Americana, and this allowed me to stay on my side, out of danger, get an underhook, and sweep him to come on top. I stepped over his legs before he could set up a closed guard, and ended up in a much more favorable half guard with a pin. My opponent shrimped out, and I switched to a cradle, where I like to set up guillotines, darces, and anaconda chokes, and even start to expose the back at times. But instead, I decided just to channel my inner Jorge Masvidal and knee my opponent right in the forehead. Yeah, if you're watching again, I'm sorry about that. It really was an accident, and hope I didn't leave a mark. So after getting his wits about him, we reset in the same position, and I was thinking about all of the many possibilities I had from here. But my buddy Edgar made the game plan nice and easy and called out,
"Do it again, Josh!"
But I thought another pride knee to the cranium was just a bit too risky because he didn't quit the first time, and his head was pretty hard, so I decided just to keep the cradle and look for him to make a mistake. He turned to his knees and gave me full exposure of his back. He played a tight turtle and didn't let me get any hooks, but made another critical error of leaving his neck exposed, which allowed me to quickly jump on the neck and get my finish by rear naked choke. And that was match number 1 in the books pretty quickly with minimal energy exposed.
Let's fucking go, dude. We're gonna need him right in the head.
Yes, Josh, we know. Going into match number 2, I was feeling confident, energized, and ready to take on anybody in the world. Unless anybody was this guy. And it was this guy. And this guy was strong with good wrestling. Such good wrestling that I took a new approach and decided to pull guard, bringing him into a Z guard. And this paid off because I was able to control my opponent's basing hand and quickly sweep him over with a John Wayne sweep to come on top. And I wanted to preserve my energy on top, so I played tight, not overextending my arms. But I probably made my biggest mistake of the day here by not controlling his head or pinning him, because he worked his way up to an underhook that, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get him to let go of, and I'm pretty good at pinning from top, so I don't know why I didn't just do it. And once he had passed my guard, he had a great pressure and stayed on top for the next 5 minutes, not letting me set anything up. But once I realized I wasn't going to get back up on top easily, I kind of just waited for the overtime period without gassing myself out, because he wasn't scoring any points yet, and I don't think he even knew any submissions. I think he thought if he just squeezed me, I would quit, but that's not how jiu-jitsu works. So now that I had waited out the regulation period, we were back on the feet for overtime, and I couldn't let my opponent score easily. I knew he was a good wrestler, but I knew I was better at jiu-jitsu, and sometimes, if you're ready for a shot, you can slap on a choke on a good wrestler, and that's what I wanted to do. So I did a little hand fighting, but more than anything, I wanted to wait for him to take a shot so I could set up a guillotine, kimura, or any choke really. But then this dude did this. And as much as I try to be calm and stoic during a fight, I had never had anyone try to do something so stupid and hurt me without submitting me. I clearly had 2 feet out of the boundaries and we were headed that way, but he still pushed me as hard as he could. But luckily, I'm built like a brick shithouse and he's a light gust of wind. Anyways, now I was emotional and my mind was clouded. I completely forgot the game plan and couldn't really think straight in general. He immediately shot, and instead of attacking, I sprawled out and sort of just froze. I kind of went for a back step, but it didn't really make sense at the moment without any other control, and he was able to get me down for a takedown. I entered Z guard, but was still pretty flustered and didn't really snap out of it until he had me pinned in half guard. And that's when I realized time was running out and I had to go for a finish and fast. I tried getting under him, but he passed to mount, and I knew if I could get my hands on his hips, I had enough energy left to buck him forward one last time, and with his 2 hands attacking my neck, I knew I could throw him forward with no base. So I did my kipping escape and ended up in single leg X, where I swept him and jumped on the old reliable ankle lock. I had a good bite on the ankle, my knees were pinched, and I was arcing my back in the perfect angle, where even if he got over my knee, I could go belly down. And just like that, his hand came in, and I got the tap. So yeah, I thought he tapped and let go, but he didn't, and the ref didn't know what to do, so we just kept fighting, and I lost. He apologized for pushing me. It was the heat of the moment. I'm embarrassed. We're moving on. Next up came the repechage round, which is just a fancy way of saying the loser's bracket. But I still had a chance at bronze and wanted to get the nasty taste out of my mouth from the last match, so of course I stuck around. My opponent was another good wrestler, and I could tell from watching his last match, but I did not want to be on bottom anymore, so I decided to pull out my singlet too. My opponent had strong posture and was shutting down anything I tried on him, and came back just as hard with his own foot sweeps and shots. I could tell something big was coming, and he shot for a double leg, and I was able to get a whizzer and shucked him forward in an Uchimata style throw. I abandoned the throw when he stepped back into me and got under his legs for a single leg X, cleared his head control and swept him just like my last opponent, going for another ankle lock, and this time I wasn't letting go early. With the same bite on the ankle, knees pinched, and feet on the hips, I arced my back, bending his toes and finishing it once and for all.
Yeah, buddy, let's go!
And I gotta say, it felt really good to rebound with that. Now I was onto the bronze medal match with a scrappy young kid that was putting a pace on the other guys in the division. He was scrambly and fast, and I did not want to get into deep waters with him. We started hand fighting and he looked super confident. I am by no means a wrestler, and this is probably hard to watch for anyone who is, but something a good wrestler once showed me was to avoid reaching for your opponent's head with the hand on the same side that your leg is forward, because it leaves your leg open for a single leg with no arm to defend it. And I noticed my opponent was doing exactly that, so I picked his leg up right away and was able to off-balance him and sweep his leg to get him down. I passed from side control and got a crossface and was able to step to mount. But my opponent regarded and made the same mistake as my very first opponent, leaving his leg dangling and just waiting for it to be snatched up. And this time I had my best bite yet and yanked that thing as hard as I could. He wasn't tapping when most people do, so I went even further and got the verbal tap, which I felt pretty bad about in the end because you never want to hurt your opponents. Isn't that right? And that's how I was able to secure 3rd place at the event. I want to give a PSA to all the blue belts out there that you really should get good at a straight ankle lock because it's available way more than you even realize. And my day wasn't done there. No, I moved on to the open weight division. And you can bet I tried the ankle lock there too. But it turns out when you do that to a big guy, they end up armbarring you with 6 seconds left. And that's pretty much how I spent my Saturday. But the best part was getting to eat real food again, and the first stop I made consisted of a salted caramel milkshake and a big cheeseburger. Hey, wait, don't watch me eat. What's wrong with you? That's gross. You're gross. Okay, subscribe, bye.